You can see here that I've entered the 22 Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund application. This is the full application. I have gone through the opportunity details and the project information page and have marked them as complete, and that's why there's a check mark there. And now in the application forms page, there are 4 parts. The project details is very similar to the pre-application, and so I'm not going to start there today, but the housing is the housing project. I'm going to open that and enter that part of the application. You do need to enter it even if you are a technical assistance application, so that you go down and mark complete. If you are not going to be doing a housing, you still have to enter it and mark as complete. However, it opens right to because I have started this one already. So your first piece is project type. Here you're going to, is this a housing project, yes or no? So if we did say no, it's going to say scroll down and mark complete on it down here, save and mark complete, and it will take you directly to the technical assistance part 3. But because I'm going to show you an example of the housing project, I'm clicking yes. Is this a home owner occupied? If you said yes, then certain fields down below will open up and be particular to the homeowner project. But if it is not a owner-occupied rehab project, then click no, and you have 2 other choices. What type of housing project then? Is it rental? If it is, that opens up some questions to that. But I am going to show you an example of the home buyer today. So then we keep going, but make sure that you are really careful to click the correct one so that your correct questions come open for your project. We went over the project activities. This is that list that I had showed you in earlier slides. The new construction, home buyer assistance, developer fee, housing management, and general administration are the ones chosen for this example. It's a 2-unit project. I'll show you where that ends up. Is there an additional eligible activity listed above that the project will engage in? This is a field that we have had to keep here. If you go into the Section 58706 of the Nebraska Affordable Housing Act, there are a few other types of project activities that are allowed. We haven't necessarily prioritized them, but if there was a project that envelopes those into it, we would want to hear about it, and you could explain it here, and we could continue to discuss how that project activity might fit into our priorities and make it work. So that's just an option there most of the time, that there isn't an additional eligible activity. What will the affordability period be for the project? That you can look in the application guidelines to see what the point scorings are, but of course, the more you choose, the higher the points, but you also want to choose it to what works best for your community and for the type of program you have, and you can always defend that in a narrative. Then our household beneficiaries, so every project is going to have some kind of beneficiaries, and you're going to claim here what your target area median income will be for choosing a targeted beneficiaries to serve. In this project, we're doing 2 units. One of them, we're going to serve anyone at or below 120%, and we're going to do one at or below 100%. Now, whatever you choose to put in to these will be, if awarded, will be the contract number for your goal of beneficiaries that you are reaching. So be sure you choose that which you are satisfied that you can attain and that you want to be considered for this application, and it will then transfer over to a contract if awarded. So what is the total proposed trust fund beneficiaries? So you're summing them all together. So the number 2, 1, 2 goes here. Then you would enter your radon testing and mitigation process. I would say be sure that you read carefully every instructions throughout the AmpliFund application. It will give you a lot of indication of what they're looking for to have you put into the different fields. Program guidelines, you will read about the program guidelines, asking you to indicate the date of latest revision and creation of these program guidelines, and in your document footer and title page will be very helpful. The applicant's governing body has to approve the guidelines before release of funds. However, you do not have to have approval ahead of application submission. So here you are going to be telling us whether or not you have had them updated and aligning them with the 2022 application guidelines. And you will upload those. You can also you will go to the trust fund page, which I happen to have up here. You will download the guidelines checklist. In this case, we're doing an example of a home buyer, so you would download the home buyer guidelines checklist and fill it out. It would then need to be uploaded under the checklist place, and then the program guidelines uploaded into the application. Project design. You'll select the project homebuyer activities. This new construction homebuyer assistance, you will have done this earlier on as well, but these are particular to the homebuyer project. Now you come to a narrative section describing the design. Be sure that you answer every question that is put out in the bullet points. Also read the hints as you go through it, and you're welcome to copy and paste the question in and then answer it, below, or however you want to figure it. You may want to download and print when you get done with each section. Right here you can do that so you can see how it prints out. But you can download and print each thing. I would also say you're going to want to save often, so that come down here and hit the save. You'll want to save quite often in case you time out or get interrupted or anything, so that your work is saved and you can come back in at any time. You can always come back and review, even if you have hit mark as complete. So as you go through, there's pretty much a lot of instructions for every box that needs filled in. I do want to say, like, if you come across a question that has an asterisk, but it does not necessarily apply to your project. So for instance, if you have a home buyer assistance only project, but it is in the home buyer, this description of units, you will not apply. You don't know ahead of time what kind of unit you are going to be assisting with your home buyer assistance program. So place in there not applicable or NA, so that it'll allow you to move on. Because if you do not have it, it says this field is required, and it won't let you save and mark as complete. So again, just if you come across one with an asterisk that does not apply, just add in A. So I'm just taking you down through these. If you have any questions, please refer to your application guidelines, or if that does not address it, the frequently asked questions may, and then also reach out to your housing representative if something is not making sense to you and you're not sure how, what we're asking for in the question. The proposed lease agreement is an example of perhaps you have a home buyer new construction project. Is it a rental project or a home buyer with short-term lease? If it's neither of those, no, it's not. Does the proposed project include new construction, rental rehabilitation and conversion, or infrastructure improvements or acquisition? If it does, then the site review information opens up. Has the site been identified prior? Will the site acquisition be funded by trust fund? So here, if you put yes, that the acquisition will be funded by trust fund, then you should have clicked acquisition up here in the activities. These activities, again, are everything that you plan to request trust fund money for. But if the acquisition is going to be funded by another source, then you would, of course, be clicking no, it's not going to be funded by trust fund. Is the site zoned appropriately at this time? Yes, or if it's no, you have no. And if it is no, because you have some zoning to do, you can explain that in the narrative. So here's include any other details necessary for better understanding of the project. You can use this space to explain when or the process for the site zoning and the likelihood of it easily becoming zoned because you do want to make sure your site is viable for an award that you are going to be trying to receive. If the site has not been identified, just explain why, or perhaps it doesn't apply to your project, so then you would not be concerned about that. Home buyer assistance, of course, wouldn't have a site, but of course then you wouldn't have put site. You would have had no, I'm trying to think here, and it wouldn't have shown up. Will housing project create new trust fund assisted units, either by new construction or rehab conversion during the contract period? If they are going to add new units, you would say yes, and you tell how many. In this case, it was 2. Now the need and impact section. Describe the local needs this trust fund project was developed to address, its projected impact on the community or service area, and any additional points. So again, use these bullet points to kind of guide what you're going to put into the narrative. Try to answer every one of them that is applicable to your project. You can always include any other information you think is necessary that might not have been asked, but you think adds to the understanding of the project and of what is being asked here. Is it a new program? So is this a new program being implemented? So if it's new one and new program guidelines and you've not done this before as an organization, then that would be a yes. If it is a program that you have used before as an organization and perhaps even used trust fund money, then you select no, it's not a new program, and then tell us about it. Share some information about the experience of implementing that former program and follow these bullet points. Is housing identified in the applicant or community strategic comprehensive plan? If it's yes, then it opens up and wants you to give some more information, provide the current status of housing activities in the plan. So you can just give some examples of what they're saying is needed in that plan and how that's being addressed. And just kind of give an overview that is all part of a need and impact statement for your project. You can also here use this for describing other housing projects taking place in the community or the service area for the organization. If you're thinking of a wider area, perhaps there's reasons for needing more housing, new industry coming to town and such, or talk about private development happening or not happening. So just kind of tell your story. If there is a housing study available that you are perhaps linking some of this information to that you've added in the narrative, then you could say yes, and if that link to the housing study is online, we'd like you to provide the link. If there's not, you can upload the housing study here, or you could even take a few pages or summary, whatever will make it so that if you have referenced it in the narrative, it's easy to find. So just be sure you reference it in the narratives as to uploaded housing study page 7, or however you're going to narrate, however you're going to show the reviewer how to find and verify that information that you shared in the narrative. Now, you also might have some community studies, housing studies, other things that you could provide a link to and that you might want to share in the narratives and point to. If you do use this way of telling us, say, option 1, housing study upload page number. So if you are putting a link here and you're going to reference that link in one of the narratives, point to it that this means option 1, this is option 2. You are telling the reviewer where to find that information, that backup information. And then the link is here. Project financing page information, provide a narrative describing how trust fund and other sources will be invested in the project, including but not limited to. So follow the bullet points, everything that's applicable, be sure to answer. Also, we're asking if there's a developer fee and if trust fund will be used to fund it. So if you had selected developer fee in the activities, then you should be saying yes here. If you did not select it, be sure to put no. In our example, we did select developer fee as something that trust fund would be helping fund. So then it asks for the amount. Then some additional information. How was the developer fee amount determined? Include the name of the developer. Just tell us a little bit about how that is going to be used in the project. So, for instance, your developer may also be the owner of the property or maybe the contractor, builder. So just kind of describe that relationship and what the percent is that of total development cost, or you could use total, probably have to use the total project cost or total development cost. Just kind of describe how that comes to be. Sometimes the organization that's applying is taking the developer fee, so just explain that as well. It just gives some really useful information in how our applicants are thinking this through and deciding on how they make these projects work in their region. Be sure to review the developer fee definition as well in the application guidelines. Total development cost, we talked about earlier in the slide. This is where it's everything, regardless of the funding source, all costs involved in that project. Then total project cost, of course, is the trust fund focused, trust fund primary plus trust fund support activities. So that amount goes here. That's the amount you use in order to figure out your allowances for housing management and general administration. You should probably have an idea of what the gap is, your funding gap. It may be shown in your pro forma, and so you could just transfer that amount here. You have an opportunity to describe the funding gap. This is a little clunky if you are a home buyer assistance only project. Obviously, if you're a home buyer assistance only project, your total project cost might be $500,000, and you're going to provide home buyer assistance to 12 families at 120%. Well, identifying the funding gap is, I would say, is the full $500,000 unless you are doing some match, but you would explain why that money is needed for this program, and perhaps if you have other sources or partners, you can explain that and how coming together you get to maximize the number of people. Just describe that a little bit, but I realize it is a little clunky for the home buyer assistance only project. Just do your best to continue to fill in why you chose the project you did and how the trust fund money is needed in order to make that happen. Development performance, be sure to read up on all the projects that require that. The owner-occupied rehab projects do not require pro forma. If you have a question about whether or not your particular project needs a pro forma, contact your housing representative. Rental projects are required to submit a specific pro forma. It is here, it can be downloaded and filled out. The rental program checklist that's found on the website here, the rental program checklist, does have on the second page of it goes through the pro forma and talks about the different items that are in the pro forma. So you might find that useful as well. Also, then your other pro formas, your development pro formas for other projects would be uploaded here. The rental pro forma needs to be sent to the housing representative by March 31st. Be sure you get that sent in to them, and they will instruct you as to when it has been reviewed, or they may set up a meeting to discuss any aspects of it that need clarified. We do a cost allocation for these rental performers to make sure that the correct number of trust fund assisted in proportion with the total number of units is being claimed. Whatever you will claim in your application as being trust fund is what the number of units you're going to claim to be affordable is going to be stated in that beneficiary list, and I think elsewhere in the rental section if you are doing a rental application. And so you will be able to let us know how many you are choosing to make affordable. Oftentimes we have rental projects go above and beyond, or they explain how they came to choose 4 out of 8, let's say 8 units being constructed and 4 affordable or such. So just always back up your decisions with information. This here is just a place for some more pro forma explanation. Read the bullet points and you'll do just fine. The leverage table is important to share. Now, homebuyer mortgages and rental payments are not considered leverage. You can read in the application guidelines details more on what leverage is and in the terms and definitions. Just for example's sake, put in that leverage was $30,000. So if you add that to the amount of award requested plus any match, then you have a total project cost of $600,000. I put in here the developer is giving $30,000 in the form of land acquisition, and that was the leverage. Leverage has to take place during the contract period in order to be counted as leverage. It's a part of your story, so be sure to fill that out. Matching funds we went over earlier. This pretty much says a lot of what I shared in the slide. Capacity and collaboration is the last section of this. Provide description of your project and development team members. So read those bullets and points and describe that within the narrative. Then these bullet points you can describe in this next box. Here, public hearings and requested public comment periods are optional. So if an applicant does happen to do this, which we know some communities do prefer to do that, then we encourage you to go ahead and share the details about that and to upload those details in one of the applicant specific upload spots and tell about it in your collaborative narrative. When you get down to that, you're going to hit save and mark as complete if everything has been done. Now, if I still have some this field is required things, then it won't let me mark as complete. So most likely I'm not quite done. I'm going to review some more, so I just hit save. I could hit save and continue, and it'll take me back to the little bullets at the top. I have to click back into application forms to go to a next part. If I wanted to fill out the terms of acceptance, then I would be at the end. So I'll take a look at the technical assistance. Is this a technical assistance application? Again, if you say no, you'll mark as complete. You do have to go in and make this determination one way or the other. If it is one, you would choose your project activities, technical assistance program activities. Choose any or all that seem to apply to your type of technical assistance. And very rarely is there something that kind of will fit into a technical assistance that's not already kind of listed in here. So most likely that's going to be a no, but you can always discuss it with us if you have a question. The performance plan is a very important part of the technical assistance project application. So, for instance, description of the overall objectives and how the funding will be used, be specific, include how the objectives will relate to one or more of the activities that you selected here. So if you are going to expand your service area, your overall objective is what are the steps to doing that and what are the costs that are imposed upon your organization in order to expand or in order to build capacity or to improve current services and activities. So your objectives need to point back to what your overall goals are for the project. Be sure to tell why it's needing to, the funding is needed. Also, I want you to always be considering how you will become sustainable once the funding is done. These are 2-year contracts. So answer all the bullet points. If there's a housing study that really points to helping you prove your case of why you need this monies to improve capacity or services, and there's something in a housing study that points to that, reference the housing study, upload the housing study piece there. Then we come to the performance plan goals. The performance plan goals are a place where you will describe up to 7 goals. They're like a plan of action, and these are to be taken in order to accomplish the objectives you've described. If you're awarded, the recipient and the housing representative will review these goals together, and the goals will become a part of the DED contract. So you will try to be precise and create measurable goals. For instance, if our overall objective is increasing services, and part of that we need to add a staff person to do so, we're going to fill a new position. You can describe it as when you're going to fill it by, or you can just say, you know, recruit and fill new position, and have a tentative completion date there, and describe what this involves to do this. Perhaps part of the monies is going towards adding, paying some of the salary and benefits for this new hire. So then, based on your description, think through what are the typical costs related to attaining your goal. So the goal of hiring someone, there may be staff expense for the hiring process. Maybe you're paying a third party to recruit, or there's travel paid out to interviewees, or there's salary and benefits that you're perhaps going to be asking to help get this started. Then always also keep in mind of how to become sustainable, how this is going to become sustainable after you have finished using the technical assistance funds. Maybe a second goal could be having to do with trainings. If you are a technical assistance project that needs to provide training to your staff in order to provide a new service, then be very specific as possible. So try to have in mind what trainings, because it'd be good to list the actual trainings, maybe even the dates, You can tell when you plan to have them take those trainings. The more detail, the better in your description area to help the reviewers understand that you have done your homework on this technical assistance grant and that you have a plan, because if you do get awarded, you'll be expected to follow the plan. You will have a chance to work on these goals with the housing representative so that you both are comfortable with them when they become part of the contract. Another type of goal might be having to purchase equipment for the office for this new hire, purchase computer and software program. You know, you can put in a tentative completion date. We realize that these dates are not set in stone, but we want to see kind of a timeline and have kind of a goal timeline for you to follow. Again, the description and the types of costs, not looking for prices or amounts, just types of costs. These will be expected to relate to your payment request. If you're awarded, you will be submitting payment requests in the form of invoices showing that you have either expended staff time towards these goals or expended payments towards these. And so that needs to align with your goals. Your payment request will have to align with the goals. So think about that as you're setting up your goals, that they are easy to document with your payment request. So the last couple of goals are optional. You'll see there's no asterisk. Asterisk goes all the way to goal 5. So we're asking for at least 5. If you have more, depending on the type of technical assistance project, you can use goals 6 and 7 to fill those in. Another section of the technical assistance is the impact on housing production, and describe what is being asked of you in the bullet points. You can talk about other things as well, like if this is not specifically asked in the bullet, but you know that it makes a good point, then please do add it in. Sustainability. Provide a narrative on the sustainability of this project, including, when applicable, any of the bullet points. Not limited to these only. You can add others and more specifics, depending on the type of technical assistance project you are presenting. Feel free to fill in the types of information that is going to build your case for the need and the necessity of this. The organization and financial management is another narrative under the technical assistance project, where you will follow the bullet points and include anything that is applicable. Explain if there is something not applicable and why it isn't. Does the project include matching or leveraged funds? In the one that we were exampling, perhaps you are doing a $40,000 technical assistance and you're going to give some match. So you put yes. If so, describe the amounts of match or leveraged funds in the project and how they will be utilized. So this is just a review of leverage and match, and you will answer the questions. Then also you're going to upload the leverage fund documentation in the table below this. You're also going to upload your current balance sheet and income and expense statement. Make sure these are board approved ones. They are your most current ones that cover a, it'd be best if they cover a 1-year period of time. Here's the places for adding your match documentation. Of course, you have the match documentation form. This goes on letterhead. You download it, goes on letterhead. Your authorizing individual needs to sign it. You will upload it, upload any leverage documentation, the balance sheet, the income and expense statement. Here's where the leverage table is. You can fill out for leverage. And when you get that all filled out, you would hit save, and you would be able to be done with that section. And the last part of the applications form is the terms of acceptance. This is where applicants can add specific uploads that pertain to different narratives they may have written and referenced, some data, some graphs, some pictures, and you reference it and you let them know that it is in the project design upload. So if you were in the project design section, so whatever it pertains to, you'll find the section project design, or if it related to need and impact, project financing, or capacity and collaboration. Now that's for housing. So be sure you toggle this. If you have a technical assistance project, toggle that so that your correct headings come up. If you have extra data or extra information you want to share, then you're going to upload it under performance plan or impact on housing, sustainability, or the organizational and financial management. You have 2 fields that you can upload. If you have more than 2 documents, you can make them into an extended PDF and upload them as one document. Here you will be attesting that whoever is signing this has the authority to do so. You are letting us know whether the application preparer is also the authorizing individual. If not, you're attesting that you have the authority in both places here. You sign your first and last name and the date. Then you would be able to mark as complete. And then it would be time to work on the budget. So we've talked about the budget. I'll just quickly show you it in action. So if you come to this here, new construction, I've already added it. I just copied and pasted, could copy and paste new construction. Let's say we're doing home buyer assistance. I would do home buyer assistance. I thought I could copy and paste, but I guess I cannot. We have to type it in. So type in the exact name, title, then this direct cost is not only the amount you are requesting, but also any match. So if there is match, you're going to put yes, and that will open up a spot to put in how much match. If I say match is 10,000, that means that the trust fund amount I would be asking for right here, grant funded is 30, cash match is 10, total budget is 40,000. Now, I'm going to show you home buyer assistance. I did do that under there already, chose 50,000 and no match. But let's say that we were doing acquisition as part of this new construction. So then you would type in acquisition and the amount asked for the trust fund amount that you're going to be asking for plus any match. So let's say we're just going to ask for 10,000 and we're not going to do any match. So that remains no, and you hit create and it shows up under the category. Now I can delete that if I'd like. I say no, I'm gonna not ask for acquisition money from trust fund. Remember the budget, you are creating the budget only for trust fund request and an associated match for that. And you are using the lines that you selected in the activities and you are simply renaming them. We are keeping it simple. And when you are totally done, this is a check here. This should say 0 in the total overall budget cost. Your revenue budget and your expense budget should end up being zero-based budget at the end. If that is off, there are some places that you can explore. You've likely got something off in the not claiming the match, or you might have changed your mind in the amount that you had in the request back here in project information. So in project information, the award requested plus the match amount equals the total award budget. So that's where this 570 comes from. And that is what this budget is basing its revenue budget on, is the 570. And you can see that this comes out to the 570. And the revenue and the expenses match, so I got a zero base. Now, after you have finished that, you can mark it as complete, and the next place, save and continue, will take you to the end where you're ready to submit. See the little fill-in line here, the target means that's the section you are currently in. Now it says here, you have forms containing required fields which have not been completed. So I would need to go back into most likely application forms because there's not a check mark there. Somewhere in there, I did not complete some of my fields, and so you'd have to check that. Also, if you have check marks all the way across here, then you're ready to submit, but do not submit until you've hit the review, looked at that, but also you want to download your application and have your authorizing individual and your proofreader take a look at it before you hit submit. So do not hit submit. Once you do that, it's gone and it's already submitted to us. But you can see I clicked review, and then the download comes down, and you can open it up, and it downloaded the budget and the application itself with all the information that I had put into so far. So be sure to use that review button when you're at the end before you submit. So that completes pretty much the information sharing I can do on this AmpliFund. If you have any technical issues with AmpliFund, be sure to contact the DED.research or go to this AmpliFund page here. You can look through the general FAQs to stay on the application tab. You can do some troubleshooting. You can also watch videos on how to fill out different parts of the application. If you want to go to Nebraska Affordable Housing itself, there's a 2022 Trust Fund Application User Guide that you may find helpful in navigating AmpliFund while you do your application. Make sure you're in the application tab. Here's the pre-application workshop, and by the time you are seeing this, the full application workshop will be there as well. All right, that concludes the AmpliFund portion of this workshop. If you have any questions, please reach out to your housing program manager.